Today, the United States, alongside Israel, initiated a major military operation to overthrow the Iranian regime and completely dismantle its military capabilities. The entire story of this operation began on February 11th when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made a very public visit to the White House. Donald Trump met Saad Thailand. This was the only photograph released from that meeting. There was no joint press conference. Not many clear details were available. However, what was evident was that Netanyahu was specifically discussing the Iran issue with Donald Trump. Israeli media outlets today confirmed that specifically during this meeting, Netanyahu and Trump fully agreed to carry out a joint operation on February 28th, the Al-Fadaduri 28th, which is in fact today deep within Iranian territory. This operation will be divided between Israel and the United States in the following manner. Israel is simply carrying out an operation to eliminate the Iranian leadership as well as completely striking Iran's missile capabilities. As for the United States, it is participating in the operation to strike the Iranian missile program, but more importantly, it is working to dismantle this missile program. Furthermore, the United States is collaborating with Israel to direct strikes that create conditions leading to the downfall of the Iranian regime. And then, subsequent to this particular meeting, the formidable American aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, commenced its operations. We then started to see reports circulating in the news indicating that it had begun to advance steadily in the direction of the Israeli coast, eventually reaching the Greek island of Crete right here. Subsequently, over the course of the past 72 hours, it commenced its movement towards the Israeli shores, but it became quite apparent that it never actually arrived in Israel at all. However, satellite images over the past 24 hours clearly showed that the aircraft carrier is 660 kilometers from the Israeli coast, placing it at a safe distance. Is completely out of range of any hypersonic or other missiles that could be used by the Iranian side to target the carrier here. And now the United States is deployed and ready. The operation began, initiated by Israel. Specifically, Israel carried out operations against Lebanese Hezbollah in the early hours of this very morning. This particular operation led to the complete disabling of all of Hezbollah's early warning systems. This was specifically to prevent Hezbollah from being able to provide any kind of advance warning to Iran regarding a particular movement taking place. And that Israel, they are now flying to strike Tehran, and by doing so, Israel will have completely, through this very strike, secured secured the success of the plan they intend to carry out. As for the aircraft carrier, which has now arrived in this vicinity, the United States' involvement in this operation was through the deployment of its destroyers. It is also highly probable that submarines played a role in this particular incident by launching Tomahawk missiles. Specifically, the cruise missiles, along with the launch of Israeli aircraft, of course, over Iraqi airspace, and also with American aircraft that participated from many different directions, roughly from the Gulf of Oman. And from above Iraqi airspace as well, Tomahawk missiles arrived in this fashion from over Syria, originating from the Mediterranean, passing through Syrian skies to proceed directly towards northern Iraq, passing through the Kurdistan region, and ultimately reaching deep into Iranian territory, and then commenced launching a series of strikes. These were strikes specifically aimed at the missile bases situated within the region, but also it is coming directly towards Tehran, because the story began and explosions started over the Iranian capital Tehran, primarily when Israel breached with these missiles present and they penetrated towards the Iranian capital Tehran. Consequently, everything was focused on the first hour and the first 2 hours of these strikes. And naturally, these strikes, when they occurred, and the missiles, when they flew, appeared in this manner. This proves what we're talking about. Yeah, we can see cruise missiles believed to be Tomahawks flying over Syria here and then over Iraq. As we observe, these are the same winged missiles, extremely fast and flying at a very low altitude. And then it subsequently appeared flying over Iran, rapidly heading towards targets that were reportedly located in the Iranian capital Tehran. These strikes in particular proved to be extremely significant for the Iranian regime, as they occurred simultaneously, targeting no less than 14 distinct locations. This is a clearer image and a map that illustrates all the cities struck within the initial hour in Iran, naturally with a particular focus on Tehran, as the explosions there occurred in this manner during the early morning hours. Everyone was anticipating yesterday evening that the attack would most probably occur as global markets were closing down, specifically the oil market and the gold market. But ultimately, of course, Tatayna and Afum, the strikes came in the early morning, precisely as Iranian officials were either arriving or beginning their movements. They clearly hadn't considered the possibility that Israel would launch an attack in broad daylight, with both Israel and the United States acting together. The most perilous of these explosions occurred precisely here, at this very spot, right at this roundabout in the very heart of the Iranian capital, Tehran, with particular emphasis on this prominent main building. This specific strike is the one that was widely described as the initial attack that directly targeted Tehran. Observe, if we momentarily disregard that, we will indeed find ourselves situated right in the center of Tehran, specifically here, heading towards this very roundabout. And you'll notice that the building we just saw a little while ago is right here. This is indeed the very same building. If we were to bring the satellite down to the ground, we would clearly see that we are standing right in front of the exact same building naturally. Based on this, from the satellite image, we can clearly observe that the explosion is precisely in this direction, specifically towards this very point. And if we were to quickly direct the satellite to that exact same area we're discussing, we would then find ourselves directly in front of the Iranian Supreme Leader's residence. This is his private residence, which was reportedly struck, as Israeli sources specifically stated just half an hour ago, that it was targeted with 30 bombs simultaneously in an attempt to assassinate the Supreme Leader. Prior to this, news also emerged indicating that Masoud Pezeshkian, the Iranian president, had been targeted. The news came out all at once regarding the Supreme Leader and the Iranian president, and this could very well suggest that there had been a potential secret unannounced meeting taking place right here, and subsequently, Israel possessed the information and then directed this attack, which was aimed at the Supreme Leader and the Iranian president. And of course, the Axios website was the one that confirmed that this was indeed the plan from the Israeli side specifically. In addition to that, 30 Iranian officials were targeted, and among those officials believed to have already been eliminated by Israel are Iran's Defense Minister Ali Shamkhani and Mahmoud Ahmadinejadi, who is, of course, one of the most important figures, and the former Iranian president. Israel has significant issues with him, and of course also at head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and the Iranian Deputy Chief of Staff, and Ali Larijani, who is the General Secretary. The Supreme, or the Secretary of the Iranian Supreme National Council. Also, up to this very moment, there are no signs of life for those individuals, not even for Masoud Pezeshkian or the Supreme Leader himself. Generally speaking, it also became clear that one of the explosions had struck a very critical point. Several ministries were hit, but it is believed that the second or even the third point that was struck was extremely dangerous. It only became visible from this particular angle. Up to this very moment, there have been numerous updates from satellite imagery. The exact location is situated to the northeast of the Iranian capital, Tehran, roughly in this specific direction. It's the very same building that we observed just a short while ago. This is clearly visible on the satellite imagery, as you can see, and the precise focal point of the explosion, as we can clearly observe it, is situated right here at this very specific spot. This is the designated square area that appears to have been deliberately targeted by Israel. And if we draw closer to this particular point, which seems to be extremely near the depicted location, then this is the main headquarters of the highly significant Ministry of Intelligence. This ministry plays crucial roles in liquidation operations carried out abroad in Europe, including the targeting of officials and other individuals, but also at the very same time, it is located to the east of the Iranian capital, Tehran, at a distance of exactly 51 kilometers. The main headquarters of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is at the Haidar al-Qarar base, as it's known. This base was previously struck by the American side and targeted with guided missiles. Its entrances are clearly visible, proving that we are facing a significant, heavily fortified base belonging to the Guard east of Tehran. Of course, it has extensive protection. You observe these additional entrances, and you also observe that there are many warehouses. What confirmed that this specific point was struck are the images clearly originating from within Iran, showing this very same location. You will clearly see that the strike was precise and evident, and it appears that the United States was the one specifically focused on directing this particular strike. There was another wave of Tomahawk missiles that were used, and guided missiles appeared in this manner, achieving penetration towards targets deep inside Iranian territory. And of course, there were also strikes targeting the Kermanshah missile base, which we see, the Khoramabad base and the Tabriz base. Although 4 of these military bases sustained significant strikes, and American media outlets had just reported on this very recently, including prominent networks like Fox News and other news sources. But US Navy used Tomahawk missiles to cripple Iran's defensive capabilities, but also at the same time to strike these very missile capabilities. Donald Trump had stated from the very first moment of this operation and the war that the United States would work to completely dismantle Iran's missile capabilities. The Israeli side was striking the platforms as Iran began its preparations, knowing that a strike was imminent, and orders were issued to specifically retaliate against Israel. You'll notice here that Israel was closely monitoring these platforms as the Guard attempted to initiate missile launches. Of course, Israel was entirely preemptive and delivered all these strikes. What then did Iran do in return? Iran, quite simply, when it responded, retaliated against Israel and did so very swiftly. It launched rocket attacks on northern Israel. It attacked central Israel, specifically targeting Tel Aviv. It attacked both the north and the south with a concentrated focus on Tel Aviv. And it continues, even at this very moment, to concentrate its strikes on Tel Aviv. This includes Nevatim Air Base, which is regarded as the principal home base or the main operational point for Israel's F-35 stealth fighter jets, specifically. And it's also the case that Iran broadened the conflict as had been foreseen. It launched attacks across the entire Arabian Gulf. It also struck the Kurdistan region, hitting several other targets, and notably regarding the Gulf, it struck the United Arab Emirates, it struck Qatar, it struck Bahrain, and it struck Kuwait. For example, in Bahrain, the strikes were coming in the direction of the 5th American Fleet. It hit a specific point in that direction, and it also struck a radar, as we can observe here at this location, with a drone. They used missiles and drones, specifically the Shahed 136 Pix kamikaze drones. Also confirmed reports from Qatar state that 44 missiles were used against Qatar, and several drones struck a radar system valued at approximately $1 billion located north of Qatar. This radar is an early warning system and was completely destroyed. And consequently, what the Iranian side is attempting to achieve here is also to guarantee the unrestricted movement of its missiles in the coming days. As this conflict persists, involving strikes on radar systems and other targets, as well as attempts to target nations that are significant oil exporters, aiming to drive up global oil prices even further, and additionally, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Indeed, there was an official declaration made by the Iranian side regarding the closure of the strait. They trained extensively for this operation. The initial announcements from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard were in this manner, stating they had closed the Strait of Hormuz. And indeed, Iran carried out this extremely dangerous operation despite the immense pressures they face. And now this is almost what the strait looks like. This means oil prices will rise, possibly reaching $150 or even $200. So the plan and the battle map are simply like this. All these points are for the United States and Israel against the Iranian regime's points, and Pakistan and Afghanistan, of course, are at war. There have been battles that have occurred at a very challenging time, thus exploiting Pakistani and Afghan airspace to strike northeastern Iran or Mashhad, for example, is a rather difficult matter because there is significant aviation and military activity in this particular region. And on this basis, we are today facing this situation, and we are only on the very first day. Well, this is the very first day of this battle. This operation has begun, and it could potentially shape a historical transformation in the Middle East.